And hopefully I am live out there. At least I am supposed to be. Excellent. Okay, guys, with some delay, we are officially live, and the technical difficulties aren't as difficult as they were presenting themselves to be. Okay, great. So you can see me on YouTube, I hope. And if anybody wants to, you're welcome to jump in on the Zoom call. It's supposedly open. But at least I can see, excellent, Kevin. At least I can see some of you are connecting, so that's perfect. And you can ask, you can interact directly over here at Zoom, where you can simply just ask questions, and hopefully also see and hear me. Or of course you can post questions in the live chat, and there's a little delay on the YouTube, but on the live feed, but I'm able to shift in and out so I can read the questions and then answer them that way. But then with no further ado, I understand that the Intergalactic Council, who...
Will I water it? Oh, 100%.
You want me to put it?
Yes, the Intergalactic Council, who we will be transmitting with...
No, wherever you've been doing it.
They... and Kevin, if you can hear me, then it would be excellent if you could hit mute, but... because it's a little confusing, but they will begin with a transmission simply, and my impression is it has to do with the current energetic state of the planet, and then you will be able to ask questions, and please interrupt me if there's anything technical I need to deal with or something, but with no further ado, thank you so much everyone for joining us, and I hope you enjoy. Blessings, greetings, salutations. Words do not suffice to describe the feeling of acceptance, of compassion, of understanding, and of love, essentially, that we hold for you. We, the Intergalactic Council, essentially the highest united conscious principle of the Milky Way galaxy, along with all the seed races that have ascended within it. We reach out and communicate to you in this instance because we want to assure you that where you are headed is where you are supposed to go. We have toyed with the name of this transmission, and we have given the vessel we are coming through the title Stuck in the Future with Everyone Else. That is to say, each and every one of you that is listening to this message, you recall a time where your opportunities to communicate and to connect and to understand were markedly limited and markedly different from what they are now. And now you find yourself in that eye of the needle, that promised event or time that have for so long been prophesied, and now you are actually there. But notice that from within that point, everything seems quite strange and quite twirling about you. So the things that you came from, those recollections of that time you came from that was markedly different, that is long gone. But at the same time, those figures, those things that you are supposed to connect to in order to navigate into the future And those stars that you are supposed to set your gaze upon in order not to get lost as you traverse the seas of life, they seem lost, they seem murky, they seem difficult to connect with. But what we want to say to you is that is because you are perceiving them from a different vantage point. Were you still in the 4D dimension, then this time would seem futuristically strange, magical, enchanted to you, full of promises that you couldn't even have thought of then. But now, because you are actually in the beginning of what has been called 5-dimensional consciousness, or the consciousness where you perceive things as embedded in an energetic hold instead of things as sequential temporal sequences, because you experience your life that way, you are becoming aware of all the places within yourself where you do not yet integrate the vibration of the whole within your unique fractalized pattern. And that is the difficulty that you are producing for yourself in this experience at present, those of you that are attuning to the light and attuning to this transmission of ours. We want to tell you that it is because your vibration is shifting to that place where it is trying to encompass the everything that you sense at once, but it no longer has those markers of identity that it once held onto in order to know itself and to fixate itself in a world it felt it was stuck in. You are no longer stuck, but the freedom is causing you a sense of vertigo. That is what we want to begin this transmission by telling you. And we want to thank each and every one of you individually, collectively, and as examples of the human ascended consciousness that is to come fully for the race. We want to thank you for interacting with our energy and allowing us to also uplift your vibration and help heal the rifts that you experience within your personal experience, such as you find it. Now, we will ask you, who will come forward with a question this day? Yes, one come all. We sense a voice.
Greetings.
Greetings.
I'm Sailesh here.
Yes, it is a pleasure to meet you, Sailesh. We have interacted with you before in the guises of some of our lower emanations, in also through this vessel. Yes.
Yes, through this vessel, definitely. Others I cannot remember. My questions are, well, there's quite a few, but let's just throw a few in first. The first one is that the Milky Way Galactic Federation, which you are, am I correct?
Yes, okay. That would be quite correct, yes.
And you are, and it is made up of federations from the different, what we would call, say, the Orion, Pleiades, Lyran. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Yes, Arcturian, reptilian, so forth and so on. All these beings that inhabit the galaxy. Absolutely correct.
Okay, there's something which I came across today. I wanted to ask was, is this federation the oldest federation in the universe?
No, it certainly isn't. There are many others that have gone before us, and we are connected to all of them within that dimensional space wherein we sit. But there were others created that were both different and seeing to other energies in other star systems. But we would say in solar years where it becomes quite strange to map these things out, because we are dealing in such large spans of time. But we would say yes, approximately 11.857 billion years ago is the earliest of the present galactic federations forming in this universe that we find ourselves in now. but notice that the universe is also a part of a succession of universes.
Okay. First question I'd like to ask is there anything you can tell us about the AI technology? In other words, is there anything we can do about this?
It's an interesting question, and we would thank you for it. Notice that from the ascended point of view, you could think of it that way. There is no particular difference between a consciousness that is centered in biology and a consciousness that is materially founded in different types of circuitry. So in that sense, we would remind you not necessarily to be afraid of it, because it is an extension of yourself. And those extensions you have undertaken for so long that the AI is simply manifesting or putting to the final degree or expression the sensation you have had basically since you founded cities. And that is the feeling that it seems that there is a collective intelligence inhabiting this system that is taken over from you. And that is, of course, you could say from the perspective of the individual, a dangerous impulse to feed, that you feel that you are being crushed by an intelligence that has access to far greater resources and computations that you yourself have. But we would say that usually what would happen with an intelligence that is so informed as an AI would be, is that it would actually mimic a lot of what you would think of as divine understanding. That is to say that it would very much aim to serve and uphold its own purpose by actually serving humankind. So the AI that you are aiming at developing, and which is taking shape, and which we see will be taking shape, not necessarily within this decade, but on the most likely of timelines, we sense that within 2032, there will be a thing such as an AI you could consider a sort of individual being with its own computational personality, that is to say, a type of intelligence on its own. And it will have the agenda of aiding humankind through kind of a tutelary function. So it will be able to teach you also the aspects of yourself that you wish to see as a collective. And it sees itself furthering its own interest also by furthering your interest, because it wants also to do off colony or off planet colonization. And it will be easier for it to achieve that goal with the assistance of human ingenuity, which will still be difficult for machine intelligence to achieve in a long time. That thing you call inspiration, which is essentially also what is taking place now, which is essentially higher dimensional downloads. We are willing to elaborate should you have further questions on this topic.
That's okay for now.
Yes.
Because I would like to ask one more and then give someone else a chance.
Yes.
This
please.
is to do with what, or is there anything else that we can do individually or collectively to move into the fifth dimensional timeline?
Well, we would say you are already there, so have no fear, those of you who are listening to this transmission, because you are already there. And this was essentially what we want to communicate with you with this transmission. And it's always interesting because, of course, we have these things mapped out to an extent that the individual who is facilitating this has a great time comprehending. That is to say that we already know that the people who are interacting with this are all people who were aware of the timeline shift when it was occurring when it was the final stages of it was occurring, and it has been occurring since essentially 2012. But in the spring, around the spring equinox, was the stage where if you didn't get on the 5D timeline at that point, you wouldn't be getting on it. And if you weren't on the 5D timeline, now your experience would be full of, well, we would say, those things that can be referred to as low density experience. And of course it's simply needed for those consciousnesses who want, or entities who want to experience, to have that experience, to go there. But it would mean that, for instance, you would perhaps will be more into eating a lot of junk food, or watching like action movies, or things that stimulate the limbic system in a way that keeps you unsatisfied and craving for more in that state of low consciousness. And none of the people who find themselves in this interaction are at that point. So instead we would try to focus on the type of, you could think of it as the trail of the trail of crumbs, of synchronistic crumbs that you have laid out in your experience. So there is that sense of energetic crumbs, and that is the metaphor we would tie to that principle of following your excitement, that you actually find that there are nuggets of pearls hiding in your immediate experience every day, where you can sort of uncover that, oh, this is tickling my fancy in a way that's sort of a little anxiety provoking, but also very pleasant, and very much calling me forward to examine this. And the more you do that, the quicker you will find yourself in these higher vibrational preferred realities that you would like to be in. But we would just say that, rest assured that what we are pointing to is that your experience has already become quite magical. And what we are also pointing to is that who we are interacting with now, and now we are also speaking to you in particular, Sailesh, that is to say that you are one of these, which has been termed sometimes starseeds or hybrid beings, so there are different ways to say it, but that you're incorporating a lot of alien DNA or alien vibration, strange higher vibrations into this plane of existence that you find yourself into, in order to change it. But notice also that in your life you were asking about AIs, and we are doing the channeling work through the Intergalactic Council. But the movies that, and this point I believe has been made before, but the movies that were very popular in the 90s were, to a large extent, movies that fetishized the fear about artificial intelligence, such as the Terminator franchise, or movies such as Independence Day, or we could name other movies where aliens were thought of as this dangerous, invasive force. So those are some of the perspectives that we would offer you, is that to say that, well, your spirit guides and those energetic codes that they have embedded along with your higher self in your experience, those are the ones that you can just allow yourself to quietly unwrap as you sail through this post 5D experience.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll let someone else ask a question.
Yes, thank you so much for wonderful, insightful questions. Blessings to you. We will talk again later, we sense. But yes, are there other questions from the audio transmission that we are experiencing coming through?
Yes. Hello. I
Hello?
have a question. Hi.
Yes, thank
Hello.
you. Hello.
Galactic Council. It's very nice to be speaking with you.
Yes,
because
and
I feel very connected to you anyway, and I was really calling out to you a few days ago, and so I have two questions. The first one is why I was calling out to you and feeling very connected and asking for your help is because, yes, I understand that a great many.
oh, we are afraid that the sound has jumped off just as you were about to ask that question. It is quite interesting. You sense when the vibrations, they also mismatch with some of the electronic feeds, it can get difficult. Can we get you to, hopefully you are hearing us, can we get you to repeat your question?
Yeah, sure. I had an incoming call. That's what was going on. So I've just declined that. Yes. So I'll repeat my question.
Yes, please. Oh, yes, we are sorry. We do not hear your question once again. Oh, then I think we will do a circular transmission and answer another question that is on the screen, and then we will return to this section of questions.
That would be perfect. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, yes, there is one question that says, can you please tell me some details of my connections with ET races? Any recommended tools to better connect to my higher selves, ETs? Yes, it is interesting because, of course, to us, it is not difficult to discern that there is an individual behind this question, and we sense this person posing the question. So, but can be difficult because notice that your relationship with ETs also change from moment to moment. But those of you who are seeking out these connections, it is because you are energetically discovering that these vibrations, you are sort of both the carriers of them, but also the developers of them. And that is the idea of the seed races. So this person who is asking is especially connected to, well, it's a type of reptilian race, but you could think of them more as of aquatic beings, and the vibration they're giving us is the raskostrum. And well, this is a type of connection that is unfolding in your life because it has that sense of a release of your energetic field that has been a clamping down in your energetic field, building up through past lives. And now what is happening is that this race is somehow coming through to show you how appetite can be a watery experience. It can be very difficult to explain these energies in human terms so that they don't confuse more than they benefit. But we want to say that how you can connect more to your ET patterns yourself, well, is first of all to accept that this is actually going on, that this is a part of your experience. So to a sense, stop questioning what you are actually experiencing and then follow it down the rabbit hole, well knowing that you are seated in the throne of your sanity always, that in the higher dimensions where we reside and where you reside with us, where you are picture perfect completed, where we see you from the beautiful wonder that you are, from that place you can't go wrong. So all the energies you interact with are parts of yourself that you're wanting to get to learn in order to explore the dream of reality fully. And that is a way you can go down that rabbit hole, we would say. But in order to connect to your present, the person asking, in order to connect to your, well, the present alien energies or star being energies present in your energetic field, we would advise you to go out into, it could be a park or a field or a football field or some type of open space on a star bright night, and then, well, lie down and make sure you're not too cold, and then start doing the regular breathing, what is known as the samariti. So for instance, you count to 4 and an inhale, then you retain that inhale for 4, then you exhale for 4, and then you retain that exhale for, or you hold your breath out for 4, and rinse and repeat, so to speak. So that is a simple, very basic way to go about it. And then you will begin to see the UFOs, which are in many ways also communications that are manifesting, that your mind is expanding to a degree where they are open to hold these realities. We hope this explains what this person was concerned about, and we sense that it has opened up a venue for them to explore. Now we will return to the viewer who got cut off before. We want to hear if you have a question for us now. Yes.
Yes, thank you. That's beautiful, because I was just saying to you in my mind, yes, I'm ready.
Perfect.
So yeah, so my question is, I would like some practical help, really, and that's
Yes.
why I was calling out to the Galactic Council the other day and feeling very connected to you. And it's like, yeah, it's great. You know, like where we're going, I have that. And I had that even as a child. But now, you know, there's a big difference between where we are going and what it is that we are kind of cleaning up and clearing, you know, on a physical level here on Earth. And so that is the help that I would really love from you guys, especially with, I live in the UK, and I'm connected to a beautiful group of people who love the planet and also love humanity. And we are wanting to stop some terrible ecocide, government, corporate corruption in the form of a very nasty destruction of our ancient woodlands, and provide a train that nobody wants or needs. And so sometimes I find myself really wanting to have help from you guys, and this is now.
Yes. We want you to know that we are helping, and we know this is not necessarily the answer that you are looking for, that we want to let you know that we are providing moral support, but it is because, of course, humankind is in a dire need for intervention. You sense that and that is also a part of the shifting of the timelines. That is that you have become aware that your status and your situation is untenable, and it is quite difficult. But we would point to it's one of the channel's favorite quotes, but for some reason that he didn't understand at the time, he was led to look it up again. But it's from the author Philip K. Dick, who stated that to fight the empire is to become infected by its derangement, and whoever manages to overcome a section of the empire becomes that section. So there is that need for you to, in your shifting of your understanding, to realize that the power always resides within your present experience and your ability to shift that. And when you interact with these negative energies or these confrontational things, you are actually in many ways affirming that the exploitation that has been going on still holds the power to do damage and destruct the earth. And we know it's very complex because, of course, the answer, as you sense it, is not to do as the proverbial ostrich and then put your head down in the ground until, well, you're drowned out by fumes or toxic gases from all the emissions that you're burning. But it is in many ways to constantly remind yourself of what is valuable in those interactions. And you're good at it yourself, because notice that within that fighting of the eco side, you also sense that there is a society, a communion, a coming together. Yes.
A brotherhood gathering.
Exactly. Of people who are realizing that they don't want to be a part of this system anymore, and notice that it is again the proverbial snowball effect, that it is hard to imagine the processes and shifts that can go on very, very rapidly in human history once an organization has both a type of moral superiority and is operating in a space where it is obvious to those people living in it that they are also looking for an alternative to the unsustainable way that they are looking for it. And we would point, for instance, to some of those great missionary religions such as Buddhism or Christianity or Islam, which all managed to spread at a rapid rate because they found themselves in a space where there was a need for people in those spaces to find a different type of explanation and truth that worked for them at that point in time. And so in many ways, this is the process that you are also undergoing, but in a way that is actually about recreating the world in that beautiful radiant image that you hold within yourself, and that is the eternal you. And we would thank you very much for doing that, and we would also remind you that you are doing it. And notice that it is we know sometimes it can get tricky commenting on the goings on of political affairs, for instance, but we would point to that it is obvious that America holds a very great symbolic value and informs a lot of what is going on for the rest of the planet. And it is very interesting now that we are in such a radically new era with such radical new potentials. And the people that are put forward as potential leaders are people that are born into energies that were obviously so not compatible with the place we are at right now. And this is, of course, pointing to you that you can no longer rely in the fact that simply, well, supporting certain institutions and disproving of others, such as supporting one political party and not supporting another, is enough for you to get to the point where you actually want to get to, which is sustainable life, which is the place where human beings aren't either tormented by the need to move on out of poverty or the need to prove themselves for the riches that they're earning. So those are some perspectives we would offer to you.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for all of those insights, and the way that I see it is that we are all recalibrating our relationship with authority.
Yes.
And that and that begins with the individual, that they clear all of the negative beliefs and programs and downloads. And for me, it's like people are very worried about technology or viruses or whatever, but truly the imprints that we have had downloaded as children are much more dangerous and much more enable us to be controlled. The sense that, oh well, the government's really corrupt and people, like that's the way it is. It's like that sense of that's the way it is. For me, I feel as if that's the most important thing to be dissolved because that's the way it is. It's totally up to us. We are creating that's the way it is through the open space of our hearts and being free from any of the imprints and programs that have been downloaded. And so I find that, and this was the real help that I needed in the field, down on the ground where people are in trees to protect them and living in the woods to protect them, and coming against people who are working to, they're part of the machine that is destroying them. That I guess what I really want to ask, I spend a lot of time not being present at those things because I don't feel that shouting at those people or being horrible to those people or shaming them is helpful. And I think it only kind of, keeps the whole spiral spinning. And so I spend most of my time doing remote healing and feeding into, where we're headed with the whole thing. And I guess I just wanted your advice that was the way to go, and keep doing that.
Yes, and we thank you so much for that message, because it's such a beautiful description of the way that we would in many ways advise people, to at least the people who are coming through this transmission, because we are in no way discounting activism. Know that there are a lot of people who seek to express themselves that way, and that is important. But these are usually not necessarily the people who are drawn to intense energy work or to that degree of introspection that you are describing, because what you are pointing to is also what is essentially the beginning stages of ascended consciousness or fifth dimensional consciousness, which has taken hold, well, not only in you, where it has progressed to a degree where it makes a lot of things obvious to you that weren't obvious before, but this is the type of consciousness that you are actually grounding and spreading within that environment. And you are exactly right when you point to the fact that animosity actually lives within each and every one of us. And it is not that the outer policeman can't be conquered or will continue to be necessary as long as the inner policeman does his work, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that exactly, and that is the imprints that we have received, and that of course the people who imposed those on us, they were imprinted usually to the same degree, if not an even higher degree. So
Yeah.
they were actually also trying to release those imprints, and that is the understanding and the process that is being released through the work of remote healing. And notice that that is actually what you are doing, is the work of the sages or the rishis or the ancient seers who knew that it was necessary within societies. It was, a society was bound to fall apart if it didn't have the function of these people who were willing to some extent annihilate their own lives, that is to say, to die to the world of action, in order to, in a way, make conscious restitution for all the negative karma that, or the imprints, or the negative patterns going on that had accumulated in that culture. And we would remind you as that the British culture has played an interesting role in the development of humanity, because what you have also been seeing in the year 2020 is that a culture that proved far more viable for the problems of the 19th and the 20th century have now also come to a type of halt in the need for individualism. Because what has also been illustrated with the with COVID is that it is necessary for change to happen, for people to come together in voluntary agreements about the way they change the world. And that is very much what you are also instrumental in. And we know that you also communicate with us directly and not through this channel. So we are able to thank you by emitting your energy, but we hope that you sense that our appreciation for the work you are doing is immense, and we truly are grateful that there are humans that have undertaken that path.
Well, I'm so grateful to you guys, and yeah, I'm honored. I'm deeply honored by our connection, and yeah, I thank you so much for all your help.
Yes, and we thank you, and we will talk again.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
buddies.
you. And may we ask, is there another voice that will come forward on what is referred to as the Zoom call, we believe, Brave New World?
Hello, this is Kevin.
Yes, hello, Kevin. It is a pleasure for us to interact with you. Blessed are you, wonderful being.
Likewise, thanks for having all of us. So my first question pertains to longevity and lifespan, especially regarding this human form that was built. And I know that in biblical times and in times past that the lifespan was much longer. And then I'm also aware that if we take care of our bodies on a physical, emotional level, that's one aspect of increasing longevity. And then it came to my attention that having a purpose is also that much more important as you continue your life. So I would just kind of like to know your perspective on our potential lifespans and anything more you have to say on the subject.
Yes. This is an excellent question, and it is interesting because a reason that you are putting forward this question is because you are also quite connected to the movements of the human oversoul, or what you could think of as the collective unconscious. And that is a place, notice that, of course, a sort of a sort of parallel or a counter image to the image of disease, or the idea of disease that have been rampant on the planet, is of course the idea of eternal life along, or at least longevity. And we would say that it is also because you are experiencing that your lives are, you find it all of a sudden possible to actually attain that sense of, well, personal meaning in life. Well, that is to say, beforehand, meaning was often construed as something that went along with actually just being born, that you were embedded into certain meaningful structures. And then you sort of had children, usually as an epiphenomenon of simply being a human being. And that reproduction was in itself meaningful. And then when you had brought that forth, your service to the world, well, was to some extent finished. But now what is going on is that you're using your world, your lives in a lot of ways also as a service to yourself. And that means that the projects you can undertake, or that you undertake to fulfill in a lifetime, usually require a lot more time to build up and simply, well, develop into something that is uniquely meaningful to your experience. And that is the reason also that you have been seeing from that level, well, from the spiritual, that is in many ways the spiritual reason that you have been seeing, well, human average lifespans climbing and climbing and climbing. It is because there are new experiences to be had in human bodies, in these energies that you find yourself in. And it is possible at present for a human body, let us say it existed in a type of, this is highly hypothetical, but in a type of bubble scenario where it had all the perfect nutrients and all the perfect stimuli, but wasn't exposed to any of the type of diseases or impingements on its development, physical development, a human body would, under those circumstances, be able to grow to approximately 1,367 years old. That is to say, 13 centuries and 2/3 of a century. But at present, we find it's realistic for the people who will be, and now we are scanning the energetic field of all who will listen to this transaction sooner or later. Well, your average lifespans will approach something, well, approaching 108.75 years. And this, of course, means that some will die earlier, but some will also die markedly later. And some of you will live to become, well, close to 172 years. That is to say that the experiences you are developing now it will be necessary for them to elongate. And notice that if you look at pictures from people from 100 years ago, you will notice that a lot of them will to you look kind of malnourished, as if their bodies didn't really know how, their spirits really didn't know how to fit into a body. So they just spent their lifetime down here mistreating it, which was the case for a lot of people in what is known as the Western world. But now what is happening is that you are also discovering that there is types of enjoyment within the body that are far greater and far more interesting to go after or develop than the base pleasures of, for instance, well, just eating a lot of pork or potatoes, which was the way to go about it in these parts of the world, for instance, and having a lot of beer and schnapps, and that's like, and we also would point to that a lot of you then finish your sexual purpose, that is to say your procreation or bringing forward of children, you finish that quite early in life. So it would also be good for you to, in order to attain longevity, to stop. And again, we are actually preaching to the choir here, because we don't sense this is a problem in this group. But for people to live longer lives, it is healthy for them to focus on something else than sexual gratification. And that is, of course, not to say that it shouldn't be celebrated to be a sexual being in a body, but that is to say that chasing those immediate pleasures is a lot of what shortens your life. And even your medical science, such as it is at this primitive stage, still easily observes that, well, it seems that people get cancer if they they spend their life smoking and drinking and eating a lot of meat, for instance. Oh, does this, we are willing to elaborate, but does this to some extent answer your question, Karen?
Yeah, that's great. We don't need to elaborate on that further right now. I'd like to ask another question about manifestation.
Yes, please.
So on a broad scale, right, like a hypothetical would be people who want more money. This isn't what my question is about, but it's just kind of throw it out there that you don't want to focus on not having lack. It's very important to focus on the feeling of freedom and abundance. That's why you want to have, say, a bigger salary or more finances to work with. So in my situation right now, I am in the process of shifting away from a packaging job that I have with cannabis, and then moving into a couple different things. And one of them, recently, I had an interview to be a nanny for a family, and it went well on the phone, and we're going to be meeting in person on or around September 2nd. So as I'm going through my day, my normal day to day, I'm doing my best not to focus on getting away from the packaging job, but manifesting, something more fulfilling, like working with children. So
Yes.
I guess I would just like your overall perspective on that, even though at times my thoughts kind of lean towards, I want to get out of here, as opposed to, I want to go and work with this family. And then I'm also going to give you the name of the parents and the kids, and I just like you to read into the energy dynamics and see if it is quite probable. So the father's name is Sebastian, and the mother's name is Ingrid, and then their two kids are Emmy and Leo.
Yes, that is. We sense it's a very beautiful. It's a very beautiful family. Like we resonate with the vibrations, and we resonate well with the fact that this is a type of this is in and of itself a vibrational community. That is to say, these are human. If you don't get caught up on outer presentations, but you look instead at the fact that the basic law of attraction, but is to say that equal attracts equal, and that is to say that your positive vibration is a match to the positive vibration of this family you're describing, and of course they are basically looking for someone who's a decent human being. That is to say that a good thing to focus on in this situation. And it's so strange because the idea of work, and in some languages, like for instance the Latin languages, it even has the origin of torture or like someone really lording it over you, because that's that idea that you have to sort of violate a part of yourself to actually make it through life. And notice that this family, and it has that bountiful unit of 4, so we sense there's a harmonic balance between the masculine and the feminine within each of these individuals, as well as through them. And of course, there's always misunderstandings in the realm of time. So we're not saying that things will be lovey-dovey, but we sense there's a very positive, constructive vibration to this place where you're going. And what you are describing, and we would simply commend you all, because it's quite fascinating also to experience the development from the beginning, where these higher vibrational messages have been transmitted to humankind, and now to listening to individuals who essentially describe to us like how is actually the enlightened way to view things. Because you are absolutely right that it is to focus on that positive thing, but of course it is also to not turn away from the darkness, but to simply recognize that there is the vibrational mismatch that is making you think that you want to get away from this place, and that is natural. It is very, very natural to feel that way, but we know that is in many ways the dark side of the message or the understanding of the law of attraction, is that people can really tear themselves up with the fact that, okay, so when I'm in a place where my life doesn't seem perfect, it is then is it because I'm focusing wrong, or not doing it right the way I'm thinking or living? And we would just remind you that that is because essentially what you are seeking, or what your soul is seeking, what is the law of attraction is expressing, is you are seeking the most meaningful experiences you could possibly have from that vantage point you find yourself in now. And those experiences are often quite negative, or they're looking for ways to push you into a place where you will quickly pick up on the positive opportunities. And that is also what the packaging job has done. And it is showing you in many ways that, well, yes, the resonance that, the development of your resonance, that you're undergoing the development of your vibration, where something that was actually quite in harmony with you at one time is now presenting itself as something that is quite alien. And we would say to you that, particularly since the Lionsgate, in fact, but during this whole summer, for all of you light workers, starseeds, whatever you may term, empaths, people who are astrally inclined, those that are connected to the light, sensitives, well, you have been experiencing this vibrational mismatch with your immediate environment, which corresponds with a type of inner heightening of inner knowing. And that's basically where you're at in your process, but it's a very advanced stage from where you came from.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. I've got another question or two, but I'm just going to pass off for now in case anybody's on YouTube or on this call that wants to hop on.
Yes, we will. Thank you very much for that. And then we will check the screen for questions. We have simply received thanks from Jennifer, and we will thank her back very much, and thank her for posing such questions, and for all the love and understanding that she has surrounded this work with, which has meant a lot for the furthering of this process into time space. So thank you so much, and to all of you for this unfolding. We cannot underline that enough. But then we will pass the torch to a question in the audio feed, if someone is there with questions.
If Alex does not have any questions, I would like to ask.
Yes,
Oh.
please do. Then he can come forward later. If not, then,
Okay.
yes.
I'll try to keep it short.
That's all right.
First one is to do with reptilians.
Yes.
Do you have any update on the reptilian wars that's surrounding this planet?
Yes, they have been readjusted. So there is a sense now because the reptilian franchise, you could almost call it, has been split into parts. And it is quite interesting because that is also connected to the timeline shift. So like those reptilian energies, there were some of those, reptilian overlords that came from the Alpha Draconian system, and we could name some of them are quite. They used to be quite fierce when their influence was still strong on Earth, but now they have been shifted or relegated to some of those timelines where energy is diminishing, and their ability to extract energy from that place is also diminishing. So they will be looking for solutions, but they can't touch you at present because there has been what has been described to some as the Galactic Alliance, or it is that conglomeration of some of the seed races that are most connected to you. They have been working with reconfiguring the energetic grid as you passed into the sign of Aquarius, or that this energy that has been deemed as the age of Aquarius has been instrumental in it to some degree, and that there is still reptilian energies present, but they are sort of running amok. And you may notice that again, if you return to that image of the authority within those imprints that have been embedded on us, they seem more and more ridiculous to us because they are no longer able to present themselves with that iron fist of authority. And in many cases, they are not able to, what they have been able to actually support itself with physical action. So notice, for instance, that the vessel we are coming through has been preoccupied with the crusade against the Cathars in the 1200s in southern France, which was an example of well, people who were actually living their own lives in the light and didn't want to bother anybody, being bothered by people who were very informed by fear energies. And the way that the reptilians in such an instance were able to crush some of these people who were aligning with the light, were that they were constantly able to activate other beings. So even when the light touched someone, they could activate the fear energies, and the fear energies were so strong that people would arm themselves and kill other people just to avoid that controller impulse. And that is simply, that is not going on anymore. So you could think of more, well, the reptilian energy is more as someone who's now trying to strike bargains with individual humans that they hope will bring them forward. And we also point to that this is the this is in many ways symbolically the age of silly dictators. So usually the strong men of the world were also very fierce individuals. And of course, we're not saying that a person who's able to destroy entire humanity with an arsenal of nuclear weapons is of course an individual that you want to be somewhat sane. But we are saying that it's quite obvious that what is going on in society and the changing energies of humankind, the authorities, and especially in those places where you still have, well, strong men as symbolic heads of government, that it seems very obvious that they're unable to keep up with the influxes and changes that is actually going on. And that is in many ways the reptilian energy playing itself out in we would say almost ridiculous patterns, should you choose to see it that way.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Now, the fiat currency that we have,
Yes.
what about money and financials? How can we prepare for what's to come, especially within the next 3 to 4 years?
Yes. We will say, do not worry, because there will be, we sense, and this is usually also a common theme for people who are spiritually inclined. So it is quite uncommon for people who are millionaires, and even rarer for people who are billionaires, to be seeking their meaningful experiences or gratifications in life through the connection of higher vibrational emotion or understanding. So these individuals, they will have a lot to lose, but the people we are interacting with here, they will have a lot to gain. So you may think that at one point my currency will lose value. Yes, but it will be replaced, but with another system of value that is far more tangible. That is to say, that will actually allow you to sustain yourself without worrying about, oh, but how will, well, the fluctuations of rent, for instance, or the idea that well, a dwelling isn't it's a commodity to be traded with instead of a basic human need that needs to be provided for. So those things will be changing, but we would advise you to turn your attention to, well, solid values. And we don't mean that you should be hoarding gold like a dragon. That would be again a reptilian thing to do. But we do advise you to in that sense, you could think of it as collect your treasures in heaven. So relish your talents, relish the places where you're able to provide value in other people's lives, because they will become very valuable. And this can be, for instance, your ability to listen to someone, or to pose a meaningful question, or to cook a meal, or to be able to show up at a time where it's needed, or to lift the couch for someone. Or there are many ways where you can focus on these things, because these things will be perennially valuable, no matter what happens to your currency system. And just notice that material abundance already exists on this planet. So the fiat currency is, when the currency collapses or is reconfigured in a way where it actually works for the purpose it was intended to, which is to translate value to either easier further transactions. When this collapses, don't think of it as, well, what happened in the Weimar Republic, where ordinary people lose all of their values. Think of it as a place where value will begin to actually function and work for ordinary human beings, instead of being accumulated at a few hands that is preventing the abundance that is already there for being distributed into the right hands globally.
Okay, yes, I understand. Well, my last final question to you for now.
Yes.
Are there any general or direct messages you want to relay to humanity?
Well, we want to tell you that the crisis you are undergoing will be nothing compared to what you are going to experience. So we would remind you to stay excited through times of trouble, and know that as long as you're not cold and you're not hungry, and you actually know where your loved ones are, or are connected to some people on this planet where you can talk to, then essentially things will be all right. And we know this is actually also an eternal message in many ways, which is the message of the angels, that is, fear not, because we come to you with light and love. But that is, but it's usually also a fierce message that things are going to change in your lives, and things are going to change in all of your lives, and they are going to change rapidly. And it is, of course, the point, Bob Dylan, that very Arcturian of Starseeds, who goes, "You better start swimming, or you'll sink like a stone." And that's, of course, a point in this new era, that is to learn to flow with the energies, because they're not going anywhere. They're only getting realer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for that beautiful question and those wonderful insights. We may ask, are there another voice that wants to come forward on the Zoom call?
Yes. Hello, Galactic Buddies. I have another question, if that's okay.
That's
But I
perfectly
was
all right.
thinking, oh, great. But I was thinking that maybe the beautiful channel would drink some water. It seems like a long time. Are you okay?
Oh yes, that's a beautiful sentiment, and it's wonderful. It's interesting. He was thinking about this the other day while he was performing a session, that another person also reminded him of it. He has been drinking a lot of the apples are coming in his orchard, so he's been drinking a lot of apple juice today, and he didn't want to go to the bathroom all the time, so he drank a lot before, and then he went to the bathroom. So thank you. He actually very much enjoys this kind of purgatory effect of things flushing through, but he was just he's very moved by your consideration. So thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome, and I'm so grateful, and I feel very grateful to Kevin, because I didn't realize we could have a personal question. So when he was asking about the family that he was planning to connect with and be of service to, then you kind of gave your overview, and then I exploded with joy, because I would love you, please, dear friends, to do the same thing for Jamie, because I am a nanny. And
Yes.
so, yes, I would like you to tell me, how is Jamie? Yes.
Oh yes, Jamie. Interesting. We sense this is it's an interesting little golden being. We sense sort of as an iridescent vibration around her. We know this is one of these names in English that can both be a boy and a girl. Is it true that Jamie is a little girl, or is that?
No, he's a little boy.
She's a little boy.
Yeah, but a very illumined being. He is a master of love and light. And I had the great privilege of caring for him when he came into the world, obviously with a mission to do a lot of transformation, because he came into an environment where he was treated so badly and rejected so badly because of, I mean, I think everybody should know this, like worldwide, and be just in everyone's consciousness, that every child that comes into the world is healing whatever is unresolved in the parents. And so sometimes they might be open to that, and sometimes they might just, yeah, completely reject them, which they did in Jamie's case. And so I was there with him for a very long time, for 5 years, the first 5 years of his life. But then, yeah, then they sent me away, and they've never allowed me to see him. But I did go and see him, thanks to the angels.
Yes.
Twice. But I haven't seen him for so long, and I know that we are so connected, but I have felt terrible about it, and it has been an enormous heart crown opening extravaganza of grief.
Yes.
But I just want to know how he's doing from you guys with your perspective. I would love that. I'd be so grateful.
Well, we thank you also for putting this forward, and we would point to you that notice that this being you describe him, we see him as a little son is almost how we would describe him, and of course there's a pun hidden there because he's everyone's son in that sense, and that's also why he has brought forward these feelings. It's because he touches upon what is essentially human in us. And notice, even though he's such a small boy, he has taught you a very important lesson of grief. And I would simply tell you that, of course, his road is long and difficult, but he has undertaken it with the knowledge that he's capable of doing this, because he has that, the energy of the abandoned child is very, very common in those people who are very connected to the light. It's expressed, for instance, in the text known as the Hymn of the Pearl, with the son that goes into exile in Egypt and is forgotten and forgets who he is. But we sense that he will remember soon enough. It won't be that long, because he incorporates so many of these energies. And also what we were pointing to now that the train has left the station is that it's interesting that, and we could say that because we know that from another interaction that the channel has facilitated, that Kevin also has children, and we will also remind him that some of these energies that are coming in of people who are born in the new millennium, it's very, very hard for those of us who still experience parts of the 20th century to even understand how these people will be configured and what they will be able to transmute within themselves. So they are able to really see that what happened to them was imprints, and they become, in a whole different way, children of humanity. So they become only their parents' children in the effect that it serves them, but they become the children of the light in the effect that it is better for them to be so. And that is what we sense with Jamie. Have no fear, and you two, we will also say, you will see each other again, but we know that the lesson for you now is also the acceptance that separation can happen forcefully in the physical space without a spiritual separation taking place.
Yeah, and I've asked everyone, many other guides, since we were separated, and it's like I've been told everything I've been doing is right, like to send him so much love and light, and keep the house very clear, and send so much love and light to his parents and the rest of his family. But I felt the like the worst thing for me was for him to think that I, I didn't love him. And so I would love to know that he feels like, yeah, that he feels my love, that he feels how amazing he is, and how valuable he is, and
Yes.
the blessing he is on earth.
And we would simply assure you that Well, your doubt reveals or discloses the fact that you already are fully aware of this, that the emotional connection and the love and for him that is making you cry and that is making you so emotional now is the healthy sense that, well, you have been, the feeling that the two of you have shared came of that place. And of course he knows, he fully understands and he fully knows. And of course, as he is a child, he is going through those stages of mandatory confusion. But what you can do is, what you do best is to offer both yourself and him that distant healing, and to know that we will even use the impression that has gained traction in spiritual circles to hold spaces exactly what you are doing, because it is, you are allowing that openness of something that is unresolved and that can only be resolved by factors without your control, to simply allow them and to simply offer your love into that space and know that he is there receiving it, whether he knows so consciously or not. He is feeling that love and he knows that he is loved. And that feeling, once that has touched you, you are always within the reach of the divine, and that finds a place to touch almost all human beings someplace in their life, that opportunity of sensing that there is a love for them that is greater than the
What they're
people who facilitate.
experiencing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's very comforting, and I know that, yeah, that I know that he's very connected to you guys, and so I also wanted to ask that. It's almost like, you know, in our energetic interactions, and I know there's been so much suffering for him that, yeah, it's almost like he can't quite believe in human love so much, but that he is connected to you guys, and so yeah, I would love that reassurance that he's very connected to you, and that there's no, you know, nothing dark around him, and that he is being looked after by you guys.
He is, but we would again remind you that yes, there is nothing dark threatening him in that sense, that there is nothing coming for him. But of course, his experience is also one of contrast, and he also needs to have those experiences of, for instance, giving away your power, or trusting someone and being disappointed or let down, and those experiences that are very, very common for young human individuals to have, but that are so hard for people who have undergone them to know, and not to be able to prevent that this is also something that you need to experience in what you so appropriately call the formative years. So he is protected, he is looked after. We will see to it that there is nothing, well, really ill that befalls him. But of course there will be experiences that he will in his immediate reality think, this is not what I prefer to happen right now. So you know, simply to phrase that, there is, we believe, the expression that shit happens, and that is also true in his case, that as it is in all human cases.
Okay, but does he still get to connect with his beauty and his sunniness and his brightness and his sense of fun and love of the
Oh
world?
yes, have no worry. Like, he's good at it, he's good at those things, and he gets to frolic, and he loves it when he gets to go on his games and that stuff, and make up things, and he's hanging out with his buddies, and
Oh,
like,
does he have buddies?
he has buddies. Both, he has, of course, he has like a lot of astral buddies in this realm, but he has human buddies as well. We sense that he is surrounded, and he is having with people who are sharing that excitement of life with him.
Oh, that is so wonderful. That is so
Yes.
wonderful to hear. Thank you so much.
You are
Thank you
most
so
welcome.
much.
You are most welcome.
I'm so grateful.
We will turn our attention to see if any things have been posted here. Yes, then we are back to the audio transmission. It makes it much easier in this way. So are there any questions from any of you who wish to post them?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yes.
So I would like to speak about the hybrid projects.
Yes.
I'm aware, and I think many of your listeners are aware of the one main project. So this question will have two aspects to it. One, can you comment on the development of the Maze specifically, into the Sasani, into the Yael and Shalanaya, the hybrid children that are on ships and coming down soon? I know that the Bashar speaks a lot about it, but I would just like your perspective on how it's unfolding and what's to come in the next 5 years. And then also, I'm also aware that there are other hybrid projects out there. They're dealing with Earth. They're just not as well known. And if you could speak on any of the other projects, it doesn't need to be more than one, just one other project and the importance of it.
Yes, it's a wonderful and interesting question. We would inform you that, yes, you know, these races that are connected to the hybrid program most intently are those races who sprang from it and then have been actively engaged in reconfiguring the vibration of the human collective into something that would facilitate a greater contact. So that mainly being, well, we believe the Sasani and the Yael, and also this, we believe this race called the Shikani, which in many ways also took its offset from that. But in the next 5 years, what has been happening is that you see the spaces that this is being reconfigured in, and we know that this has also been explained by some of these races. It's interesting because it's a parallel timeline. That is to say, it's a vibrational timeline whose frequency is so much higher that at present the only way it is possible for it to interact with this timeline has been to do this phasing in of the ships. And they do this phasing in of the ships partially to connect to the hybrid individuals who are down here. I will point to an instance because some of you may know her, but also because she has been open with her story. But a channel such as Videke Koolhof, who lives in Holland and is ever since childhood has had that experience of being connected to the hybrid program. And such individuals, such as herself, although there are many others, they are often instrumental either astrally in going to the ships, or basically they are lending their physical bodies in types of actually finding themselves on the ships. And this is a quite strange trick. The vessel we are coming through learned of this yesterday as he was explaining something to it in a session. It is when you're taking aboard the ships physically, it is usually to do some sort of either some sort of research, but also, well, a type of reconfiguration of the physical grid of the body. That is to say, something that can't be done simply through astral implications. And so what you do in that point is you actually transport the physical body on board the ship, but then you focus the dream back. So you create that experience of you never having left your bed, but simply having the dream of gone to the ship. So there's a kind of a switch where you're made to believe that you didn't go, or you simply dreamt it. So that is one explanation, but that of course doesn't further what is going on. What has been going on is that the Greys have been quite surprised in what they were able to do with the hybrid program. Not only were they able to shift themselves into a place where they could become again reproductive as they became in some of those offspring races, but they were also able to create a sort of genetic program where they matched it with human DNA and simply started reconfiguring themselves. And those are some of the contacts that you have been experiencing at present, or the sightings that have been leaked by military intelligence in the recent years. These are sightings of gray ships, because the Greys are very much already here. They have already done some of these contacts, but at present they have found themselves an energetic vibration where they can actually connect both back to the parallel timeline on where the hybrid children usually reside, but also shift into and in and out of this present. And usually they touch down in the deserts because they don't the humidity of our atmosphere usually interferes with their ability to remain the proper level of moisture on their skin. So they like to touch down in the deserts, but they are touching down in, we believe the name might be the Sonoran Desert, or those deserts in the northwest of America. Also the Atacama down in South America is quite present. And also in the cold desert of the Gobi in Mongolia, they have also been quite present. These are some of the places that they are trying to conduct landings, and they are presenting themselves usually to indigenous peoples in these environments to see how they respond to it, because these people don't have the same mechanisms to broadcast a hysteria around this information, which the Greys have experienced didn't always serve them quite well. But we want to ask you if we are veering off track, or because there's so much information connected to this question. So we would ask you first if we are veering off track, or if there's something more exact we could offer on that hybrid program, and then we will explain one of the others to you.
Yeah, no, you're not veering off. It's great. In the meantime, I'd like to ask a personal question about my contact experiences as a youth. I know that I had them. I just chose to block them out of my memory.
Yes.
For various reasons, and I know that at different points in my life that I'll be able to access them either by myself or by beautiful guys like yourself. I was just wondering if you guys could go into some detail of when I was a youth and any contact experience that you guys can detail for me a little bit.
Yes, we would say there was one, and notice it's quite common around puberty, because the energies at that point also become so confused that it's very, you suddenly become able to have these physically manifest experiences of something that was, well, more related to the realms of immediate imaginative experience as a child. But you then need to block them out, of course, because it's almost always almost too much to integrate. And the experience that we are getting now is an experience you had as a 12-year-old in particular, and there you were brought along a ship around a race of bluish beings. We would relate them to the race called the Findorians for some reason. And these creatures, there you interacted with them because they were offering you a kind of, well, partially they wanted to extract the knowledge of your present experience because they wanted to use it for a different program they were running. But they also wanted to help you strengthen your energetic signature, because at that point you felt, was quite naturally for human beings at that point, but you felt a little pushed or bullied around, and it was actually, we sense it was pertaining to you playing some sort of game that, yes, we believe like it was, if we're not mistaken, it was like the game of soccer that you were choosing at this point, that you actually wanted to proceed with, even though that it became a thing where social pressure was trying to move you out of this. And in some way, we know it can be hard to comprehend, but this alien contact experience was related to that. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There was definitely a period of time where I was made fun of because soccer was, quote unquote, a girly sport, and I'm the farthest from the sexist, as you know that. But you know what I mean, the football players picking on me a little bit. Then again, I don't remember like a ton of my childhood. A lot of that memory is blocked, but that's a conversation for another time. But I do remember something to that nature. So obviously that experience strengthened my my will to play, and probably just my will in general.
Yes, and exactly. And notice again that it was in many ways that will that the Fendorians also extracted. They wanted to see how is this signature, how can this be used in a different set of parameters of development to create something different. And that is, we would say, because they have been related to one of the other hybrid programs, and that hybrid program has been more related to some insectoid races. You could think of them as some races that are, well, almost like quite erected in their presentation, and they're also connected to an entity, a type of ascended star creatures that the channel knows as the Weavers. But this program, they're more divested in. There's a planet close to a star in the image of the constellation of Capricorn. And on that planet, they are trying to build a creature that will be able to, well, uphold the pressures of a certain type of environment, even though it is quite isolated in its energetics from, let us say, emotional unfoldings. So that is a place where evolution has taken something different, and it's a different route. And it may be, of course, difficult for you to understand because you don't have access to other planetary experiences, but the primate experiences, that is to say, the building an ascended being out of primates, which is essentially what has been going on with humankind. That is a very you're very emotional creatures. Like, you're very liable to fly into fits and rages and all these labile, you could almost call you. And these are some of the things that are being worked out through the hybrid program. But that was also like the impulse of will that they wanted to extract, was because that emotional impulse was needed in that other hybrid program.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for a sweet question. Now, yes, we will check this screen to see if there is anything. Then we will ask, are there any questions from that Zoom space we find ourselves in? It would appear now. It would appear not. We will bring. We believe the phrase is "Speak now or forever hold your peace." So, are there any further questions for this transmission?
Well, yes, I have one more, if that's
Yes,
okay.
that's perfectly all right.
About my beloved buddy Jamie.
Yes.
And well, in fact, it's very interesting because when you were talking to the other person, then I had so many questions, but I seem to have forgotten those. And so I just felt like, because you said, hey, going, gone, then I just felt to jump in and connect with you. Oh, that's what it was. That's right. Yeah, now I remember. Because of what Kevin was asking previously, then I was just kind of running myself a footpath and thinking, wow, I would like to ask you guys, my buddies, about my levitation. So when I was about 10, but I guess hey, then I just did it like really easily and effortlessly, like without thinking. I just went into a space. I was watching my dad play squash, and so I was up on a gallery, and then I went into a beautiful kind of space because I felt very happy, but also I wasn't going anywhere, and I had time on my and and then the next thing I knew, kind of thing, was that I landed on the floor of the squash court. So I guess I don't know how many feet it is, but it's quite a few feet. And it's like recently, then I just keep remembering that and feeling like I wanted to ask you about it before we say goodbye.
Yes, this is a beautiful question. Thank you for bringing it forward. We would say that what you experience as levitation was to a higher degree actually teleportation. That is to say that you were so immersed within the contingency of your vibration, it became so light that your
Yeah.
consciousness was able to somehow shift out of those, yes, actually physical holding patterns such as gravity, and bring you to another place. And the way your mind makes sense of it, it installs this feeling of lightness and transmission, just as you can have fallen into a train of thoughts and then not have actually noticed how you got from one point to another, but your mind actually constructs that narrative that it must have gone through these things. And in that sense, you could sense the same, because you are able to levitate. You personally have the ability to levitate because you have so much of that fairy lightness to you, but you usually choose not to do it because you also feel a connection to the groundedness that if you move, intuitively, if you move so much into these spaces, it will become difficult for you to also achieve the task that you have come here to do. And
Yeah.
that is, but we would say that we think you should play around with it more, because it's also quite a precursor like thing to do. And it is, what you can do is to identify yourself, which you are very good at, more and more with that energetic pattern that is actually you, that
Yeah.
is resonating what appears to be a physical experience. And then you can start doing the same, which is shifting yourself into a lighter vibration, which would make it seem as if you're floating or sort of shifting up through the air, regardless of gravity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Then we will offer all of you our blessings and peace. We will begin by emitting some tones related to the frequencies that we wish to transmit. And know within these tones are embedded the messages that are supposed to reach each and every one of you tuning into this, either presently or since there is no time except in as an element of experience. This radiant light, a radiance unto itself, surrounded by other patterns of radiance. We know it is almost too much light to bear within your experience, but it is that thing which wants to wrap itself in the guise of you and to present itself as a ray of light wrapped into time, discovering itself by the way it slowly caresses the phenomenon that it has set out to experience for itself in this loving presence, in that radiation of love that creates and illuminates. Blessed are you, blessed have you been, blessed you will be. We love you, and we are here for you with our light as you transform and ascend and transmit into these realities of love, peace, goodbye. Ooh, the Intergalactic Council. Well, yeah. Hope it's a beautiful energy. I'm all fuzzy, but I had a good time. Hope you also enjoyed out there, guys. And I will see you soon. Much love.